You can't give away your gold and still expect to be a king. You can't give away your gold and still expect to be a king. It's insane. Which leads me to my next point of equality versus equity and understanding that. Let's be very clear on something. God virtually never is interested in equality. He's all throughout the scriptures. One of the things that these billionaires understand, a lot of the guys that are using the Torah and the scriptures and all this stuff, one of the key things that they understand and they teach is equity. Even in 1 Corinthians, it talks about the way the church is organized as a body. And God talks about in that passage giving more attention to the parts that need it. You know, if you had 3 children and one of your children was mildly retarded and the other 2 were fine, would you come in the room and say, hey, I'm just going to give each child 1 hour of attention every day? Good luck with that. You're going to come down to a burnt down house, right? Because one child needs way more attention. So equity is different. If blacks are fighting for equality, there's one of the articles here that said it would take us 228 years to get where we need to be. This states here, what equity does, equality does not take account of your starting point. Equality is not about where you started. So if another guy was given $10,000 to start, and then he was given another another $1 million, and you were given $5 to start. Equality doesn't take that into account. Equality says, hey, everybody's ready to get $50. All right, let's stop whining. Good job. African Americans will never rebuild our economy trying to think about equality. Stop looking at what whites are doing and what's equal and what's. We got to be very careful that there's a lot of things that is not equality. Some of it is actually envy, and God will not bless envy. It's not. I just want to live where they live in a house where they have, and I don't. Listen, you got to build equity in everything you do. You got to figure out a way to build equity. One of the key things to do to build equity, again, remember in 1960, 85% of the European converted Jews were poor. They went intensely buy Jew, sell Jew, support Jew, build Jew. By the time your parents went from being young, now you got to understand in the 60s, we got people like Bernie Sanders, John Lewis. That was the time they were around. Now they're older guys. Now that Bernie Sanders, a European Jewish guy, seems pretty cool though, is old. The poverty in his neighborhood or for his group has changed drastically. Just in that small window of time. But African Americans own even less in that same amount of time, have a smaller economy, but we grew in size. I supported a couple marches with the Freddie Gray. I had meetings during that time. And I remember being called into leadership meeting for the city. And I got a chance to invite some of the brothers from the Crips and Bloods and all that stuff to church, and we were able to. Somebody asked me about another march, and I decided I'm not going to probably another march, maybe ever, but definitely not in the near future. And we started talking about it, and I did the math, because when I went home, I did the math for myself. I'm a math guy. My mom is a mathematics professor at Morgan State University, and I was her math son. I was all about numbers. I've always been about numbers. So I did the math, and I decided every time I see injustice, I'm going to go out, and I'm going to, where are we? I'm going to support a black business, right? So I see injustice, I'm going to go here, Shea Moisture, Nubian heritage, right? I mean, I could go on and on of things that I have around my house or other. I'm gonna build my own economy. When I see people murdered unjustly or put in prison or harassed, why? I thought about mathematically. When I go to get on a plane to go to march somewhere, and I don't totally disagree with marching, but at one time there was marching on Washington. Now my attitude is I'm going to march on Wall Street. You can march down Washington. I want to march down Wall Street. How? The average person may spend $500 to $1,000 going to a march out of state. You got to buy a plane or get a bus or train. When you get there, you're probably renting a hotel. You may be networking with other people, and you may go out and eat at a restaurant, or you purchase groceries at that grocery store, right? You may get an Uber or cab or something like that while you're there, or a train. And you may look at all that you spent to be a part of that. You may have spent a couple $100 to a couple $1,000 to be a part of that. Whose economy just got boosted while you're there? Probably the exact same people that you came to support that were oppressing folks. So I did the math for myself, and I said, let's say there are 10,000 people at a march, 10,000, that spent $500 to $1,000, right? And so I'm doing the math. Let me look at my calculator here. 10,000 times $500 is $5 million. 10,000 people that spent $1,000 is $10 million. What if every time we see injustice of 52 African Americans just decided, you know what, with a click of a button, we start on our news feeds, what black businesses can we support? And we start shifting our money. And within 24 hours, we've spent $180 billion on just all spending $2 or $3 each on some black business online. Now there's new employees. There's a statistic that said if blacks spent $20 a month, $20 a month on a black business, we'll create 1 million jobs in a year just for black people. 1 million jobs of our own economy in a year. I'm not knocking the marches. I'm saying, how many times have you seen recent years the European converted Jews marching? How many times have you seen Asians marching? I understand a lot of times we're marching for social change, but in a capitalistic society with an economic shift, can you imagine if we pulled our own money and we had someone that wanted to run for city council in that area, and we had enough blacks that have money, we pulled together and said, listen, we're going to financially support this candidate. If they don't work out in 2 years, we're getting rid of them and getting somebody else. Period. Because they're going to affect local laws. We want these laws passed. We want these things considered in our community, right? Which is another reason I'm going to get to something else about buying property in the city. But we want this change in the city or in our community, and that we chose this leader that we want, and we're going to back them financially. When you don't have an economy, you can't do that. This is the kind of thinking meetings I want to have with the leaders of Black Lives Matter. It's the kind of stuff that I've been inspired. These changes have come over time gradually by some amazing black leaders in our community, watching their videos, their footage, kind of grooming myself over the past 3 or 4 years. Actually for years now, but just constantly being invested in, from like Dr. Layli Africa, Dr. Boyce Watkins. I think I was saying, yeah, Boyce Watkins, Damon Dash, P. Diddy, Umar, Dr. Umar Johnson, Brother Tariq, John Hope Bryant, right? Listening to these guys is changing my thinking, understanding you can't give away your gold and be a king. You just can't. Which leads me to my next point. The money's in the city, not the suburbs.